going to do, it's an absolute honour to welcome some of the filmmakers and cast from Aardman. So, in no particular order, please welcome director Mr. Nick Park onto the stage, followed by two of his cast members, Mr. Tom Hiddleston and Maisie Williams. Welcome. Yeah. Look, it's you guys. You look nothing like your characters. Nick, if it would be okay to start with you, please. I'd love to know where the idea or the your thought process on Aardman, where it came from, how it started, please.
Yes. Well, yes. It's always hard to remember how it, because I've been on this for about 4 or 5 years at least, from the beginning of sketching and writing and. I mean, things normally start off in sketchbooks and doodling, and I remember playing around. I always loved the idea of cavemen, cavemen and women, and I feel like this medium, you know, the clay, you know, it somehow really suits cavemen, and a lot of humour comes out of that medium. So, and then it just started riffing with my amazing writer Margaret about football and the tribal aspect of football seemed to lend itself. And
are you a big football fan?
No, not at all. Yeah, I guess I mean, I love football actually. I love watching the big games, and I've never been a real dedicated fan of any particular team. Yeah. Although I did used to have a Preston North End bag as a kid. I actually only saw them play about 2 years ago.
Oh wow, for the first time.
Yeah, against Bristol City. Yeah.
And how long does that process take from when you have the initial idea and then you start riffing with your writer and coming up with the characters and the narrative to actually start and work on making it and it being a reality?
Yeah, that takes quite a process. You know, we storyboard for a couple of years. We obviously, it's a script first of all, and then that goes to storyboard, where we try to find, we put on temporary voices and temporary music and try to find the shape of the story, try to make it as funny as possible, and then it starts into production, and obviously before then, obviously we need the voices of the actors, and we start looking around for the right actors.
I wanted to ask whether you have people in mind when you are writing to bring these characters to life, when it is being put together.
Yes, very much so. I mean, obviously the voice cast is so important to us at Aardman, and often see animated films where I don't feel quite the voices work. And you know, we've started modelling early characters, and the great thing about YouTube is you can look up actors and see what they've done. And initially, we try just using often a previous film an actor's done, and we try putting it next to the models to see if it works.
Wow. And
then you know, we asked, you know, Tom and Maisie and Eddie to do a test, and then we might do a little test with some, you know, 2 or 3 seconds of animation.
There's so much personality and character comes through those voices to really bring them to life. Maisie, if you don't mind starting with you, what was the experience like for you being part of this and playing Guna? And
initially, I was just really excited to work with Aardman and with Nick and to do a claymation film. When I was younger, I used to do little stop animation, claymation with my friend. We'd go to his house and make little animations, so that was really, really exciting. And then in terms of like, you know, doing the job at hand, it was really different to anything that I've ever done, and to take away all your other tools and only have your voice to portray a character and to tell a story, it was a real challenge for me as an actor. And the way that Nick works is just incredible, and he's very willing to give you like a line reading, which I find really helpful, and there's 1,000,001 different ways in which you can tell, let's say, a line, and so when you strip everything back and that's the only tool that you're using, or the only tool that counts, yeah, it can get very intricate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had the best time, and Guna's just fantastic, and I want to keep her on a little shelf somewhere.
She's a girl footballer.
Yes!
It's awesome. Was it quite easy for you both to come to that point of how she would sound, and how you wanted Maisie to use her talent and her voice to bring her to life, to find that voice? Is it a collaboration?
Well, I'd seen her, obviously well aware of Game of Thrones, but also other productions Maisie's been involved, and her incredible versatility. And I was looking for someone, as with Tom, you know, someone who's very versatile and funny, and by the way, it's just, I feel so privileged to have such an incredible lineup of British talent involved in this project. It's wonderful.
I think it's testament to Aardman though as well, in terms of how important Aardman has been for so many people from childhood up until now, and still continues to be. It's so different, but it's so loved around the world. So I think you have people jumping on board to want to be part of it. Tom, would you agree?
Yeah, Wallace and Gromit was what I feel was part of my childhood, and perhaps you feel the same. Nick's work and Aardman's work is so distinctive and so unique and has such a particular British charm. And when this came towards me, it was a package. It was a script and a little sketch of Nuth, there he is, and a sort of 3D model. It hadn't been painted yet, and I read it very quickly, and it made me laugh, and I was so honoured to be asked to be involved. But I think because it's such a unique experience.
From reading that script then to having your first session of voicing him, I imagine there were conversations in between that of who he was going to be and how you were going to voice that. And I imagine you started off one place but ended up in a different place, did you? Or was it quite instant as to how he would sound?
Well, it was really interesting because I got the sketch of Nuth, this overweight, frustrated middle manager with small hands. I thought Nick Park is the first director to really see me as I am.
He was watching The Night Manager, but nailed it for me.
And it was clear from the script that he's incredibly pompous and puffed up and self-important and ridiculous. And he thinks he's so much more important than he is. And he's obsessed with money, and he wants to just kind of fleece the Bronze Age. He wants civilization basically for money. A very small man, ultimately. Not physically, but and then I remember our first session was really about finding the voice. Nick had lots of ideas, and the first thing I remember he said was, "I think you should do it in French," but not. It was a sort of hello school of French, wasn't it? In that Nick was always chasing the funniest version of the line reading. It was just try and make it sound funny and silly. That there's this man who has such a self-aggrandized idea of his own importance, and I basically tried to make Nick laugh.
Yeah, we did often. We are still laughing.
Yes.
Yes. But I think that's, I mean, having, obviously actors so well known already, but also people, what's been wonderful for me is being able to, that exploratory process of going in the room, not quite knowing what it's going to be. I think, Maisie, you said you have a friend who's Norwegian.
Well, I do. One of my brother's friends is Norwegian, but I actually just found a YouTuber. I know YouTube's great. Went on YouTube and found this girl from Norway, and she just like has a channel and just chats to the camera, and so everything that you could ever need, like, is kind of there. And I was just mimicking something like that, really. But it took many different forms, and that's the strange thing, is that, like, of course with anything you shoot it over a long period of time, but recording this, like, there was different sessions, so when I go back and listen to it, I can definitely feel like which sessions were stronger. but yeah, it was just good fun. I don't know, it's quite exciting when you're creating a cartoon character, because you can really you can just have fun with it, and it's not like a test, like, because nothing's wrong. You can just, yeah, as I say, have fun, and Nick's just like opens up so that you can just have a mess around, really, and just try it all sorts of different ways, and And first few sessions it was just a lot of getting used to, because I wanted to try and get it right, but actually it's not until you go and animate it and you know, put it with the action that you know which line is the right one to choose. So it's just like you go again and again and again and do multiple different lines, and then they'll slot in perfectly, like only one of them will work. But you give lots of them just to cover all bases, I guess. But yeah, I've just had the best time.
I think we always will have this romantic notion that you're all in this giant voice booth together, doing it all together, but the reality is, and especially when you have such busy, you know, actors and actresses involved, that they're all over different parts of the world, so getting one of them in a booth at a time opposed to all of them must have been quite tricky as well.
Yeah, it is, because obviously everyone's busy, so I just feel so lucky. In animation, it happens over such a long time. You can grab people when they've got a spare afternoon, you know.
Throw a microphone in their voice, in their hand.
It gave me a new appreciation of the pains taken by Aardman and by Nick in they're so rigorous and so hardworking, because I think I first read the script in May last year, and my first session was at the end of that month or early June, and every time it was every 3 or 4 months we worked together, but there was more to see. But Nick would take away a batch of takes, and then the animators would go back to Bristol and work on it, and just the extraordinary diligence and industriousness of this great team of people who really are doing the heavy lifting, you know. And that was it was really thrilling. I'm in such admiration of the craftsmanship and the skill.
Did either of you get the chance to go down to the studio at all to see it?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to go down right at the beginning. I'd had one session and then we went down. And Aardman is based in Bristol, which is where I grew up, so it was very exciting. Or going home, for starters, but also going down and seeing the studios and seeing what goes into it. And what I realised is when people animate with the clay figures and with the, you know, mouthpieces and whatever, that's like the one and kind of only time that they do it. And before all that, there's a lot of troubleshooting that gets involved, and they you know, record. I think, Nick, you even do some of it, don't you, where you record your own body language and then someone else will animate the characters doing that sort of movement, and, you know, play it along with the track that you've already recorded. And so there's just layers and layers and layers of what goes on, and then once they've, you know, recorded everything and photographed everything, that's when they'll go in and do the effects, and they'll do the green screen, and there's just, yeah, there's a whole process that goes into it. And I was also lucky enough that day to go into the studio with Eddie, and we had one day together where we recorded in the same booth, so that was really good fun. But the great thing is you just, as I was saying earlier, like, you just do it so many different ways that however the other character reacts, like you can slot the right line in, yeah, which is just very different to what I've done before, yeah, it's incredible.
The synergy though between the voice and the characters is absolutely incredible, because like you were saying about mannerisms and personality and characteristics coming out as well, you can, even though we hear you playing characters, we can still kind of see you, if that makes sense, in terms of the way that you're bringing it to life with your voice. And is that a process that's done once you've found the right take and you're matching it and you maybe have to reanimate or whatever? How do you get that synergy?
Yes, well, we have, you know, the characters are being designed to start with, but as soon as we record, you know, with any of the actors, that then changes something a little for the animator, or that we adjust the mouth, but depending on how you've said certain, or what the accent is, or how you speak, it implies certain gestures. And as Maisie said, then one of the animators gets in front of the video camera and starts. We then interpret it again.
You did the overhead kick, didn't you? Was that you?
I mean, jumping out of windows with toilet paper. It's quite hard to.
He did massage me though.
I was going to ask you about that. I was going to ask you about that, because that's not just mimicking the noise of being massaged. That's someone really kneeding your shoulder. You were kneaded by Nick?
Yeah. Park is playing hobnob in that scene.
We did about 10 takes, but which were unusable because of the laughing.
It was very funny.
Just to get that sound.
Yes, it's oddly more physical than I expected it to be.
Did you? Was it a case of you were in there and you're like, to get this, you are going to have to come in and chop suey my back?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I volunteered.
I thought it would just be funny because I had seen the sketch of him sitting in the bath, spread out, you know, and it just thought it would be funny to have all those sort of awkward noises, because he thinks that he's with Stefano, but he's with a pig.
It was a strange feeling.
Yeah.
Massaging Tom Hiddleston's shoulders and thinking how many people will pay to do this.
I wanted to ask you as well about the message bird, which is just a wonderful character and a great idea.
Yes.
Where did that come from?
That's Rob Brydon, of course.
Yeah.
And he's been fantastic as well. Well, yeah, I guess it was just thinking of, you know, what kind of technology would the bronze world have, and how would they use what's available. And yeah, it started off as this parrot well, it ended up as this sort of parrot messenger pigeon.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's developed quite quickly, I think. Really.
Yeah. When you're thinking of creating new characters, you know, in a whole new world, and with Aardman, what was the biggest challenge for you with creating this whole new world and these new people?
I guess yes, it's hard to pin down a single. I guess the whole thing was the single biggest challenge. But yes, creating a new world where that we haven't been before. You know, very wild. You know, lots of jungle and forest, and then, as you may have gathered, there's the Badlands and the Bronze World, where it's nothing but volcanoes. Very much inspired by A Million Years BC. One of my heroes, Ray Harryhouse. In fact, the two dinosaurs that you'll see at the beginning of the film are called Ray and Harry. Ray Harryhouse. Yeah, and so it was a challenge, and us, you know, so there's lots of. We thought we'd do it in the old way, you know, so it has that, you know, very visceral, physical feeling as the old Ray had. If you watch the trailer for A Million Years BC, it's wonderful in itself, and shows people surrounded by dinosaurs and volcanoes and earthquakes. We wanted to emanate that a lot. But plus there's a mixture of digital effects all the time as well, which allow us to go even further.
What I love about Aardman, I think a lot of people agree, is how you stay true to what you do, and you know, and why we all fell in love with Aardman to start with was this wonderful process that you use that is so much hard work goes into it and so much time, but you stay with that and you're true to that. Has that been an easy thing to do, to not go down the easy road, I guess, of not doing the stop motion, but it's so effective and it's so wonderful.
Well, I mean, yes, I mean we are as well. You know, the way Pete and Dave run Aardman is to keep it very sort of Catholic in taste and diverse, and you know, we are doing a lot of CG, especially in commercials and what have you. So we're well acquainted with it, but I think it's our USP really is the old stop frame, and I've always felt true to that personally. But I have great admiration of CG, you know, films, but just doing it this way seemed to lend itself more to cavemen, and I feel like there's a certain humour comes out of the actual puppets and a certain expression that for me just suited, you know, primitive people expressions.
Can I come back to you two and ask you what you felt like on that first day in the booth?
I thought I was doing an awful job.
Really?
Yeah, nervous. I wanted to live up to Nick's standards, to be honest, and excited because it was unknown, really unknown territory, and I probably knew it was going to be a long job and coming back over various months, so a mixture of nerves and excitement.
Do you find yourself kind of looking through the glass and trying to read every expression of someone's face through that glass as to whether you're getting it right or?
Well, I guess that's kind of what I was trying to get at earlier. It's like I wanted to go in there and then get the lines right and then leave, but that's not really the way it goes. because there's like multiple different ways in which you can read a line, and it's until they fit them all together with whoever else is in the scene and start animating that they know which one is correct. So you just have to, you know, be able to take direction and give every reading of the line, and that's, you know, that's it. And then you move on to the next one. But it was just this, like, it's just a different way of working, completely different. And then once you got that out of the way, then it was just good fun after that. But yeah, that first session was very nerve-wracking.
Look for the silent thumbs up from Nick. You don't know you do it probably, but Nick would give me a note and say, maybe a bit more pompous. So I'd do a bit more pompous and he'd say, and a bit more irritated. And then so I'd do it irritated, he'd say, that was really got on the irritation, but sort of lost the pompous, so maybe put the pompous back. So you're trying to do that, and then I'd do it pompous and irritated. A bit more French. So, and then finally it would be the irritated pompous French, and you get this.
I was just amazed at this, for me to use a golfing image. It's just the way, you know, such, you know, top line actors can just slice it, or hook it. You know, you can just ask it one way, change the motivation slightly. I always think it must be difficult without, because in the recording booth you don't have a costume, you don't have a set, you have nothing to react to, and so it's all got to come from
imagination,
hasn't it?
Yeah.
Were you nervous at all, Nick?
Very. Well, in animation, it's you're working in a dark room for 2 years. It's not very glamorous. So to come out and meet, you know.
It's very bright in here today. It's very bright in here today. It's fine. We'll let you out your dark room for 5 minutes. This feels like it's a world as well that has more stories to tell. Would you like to tell more stories? We haven't even seen the first one yet, but it feels like it is a world that could have more stories.
I imagine, yeah, you probably could, yeah. I haven't got that far yet.
No pressure whatsoever.
Early woman.
Maisie, are you a football fan?
I mean, no, not particularly. I'll watch it, I'll enjoy a game, but more because it's quite cool seeing like a team group together than because of the actual game. Like in the way that I, you know, like watching javelin. Or,
wow.
You know, it's like cool seeing someone like do a really good job at something.
Right, yeah, that's a no then, basically. Are you a football fan, Tom?
I'm very excited about the World Cup next year.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I get very excited about international football, particularly. I don't know why that should be. I think it does something about wearing the kind of national jersey. I don't know. So
you're lucky you've qualified.
Yeah, we'll see.
But this kind of weirdly, that's a nice thing to bring up with regards to Aardman. Is that although I think you said it's kind of there's something quintessentially British about it as well. It's loved all around the world, and it has a kind of universal appeal to people. And you know, football being a very small part of the story and the narrative, it's kind of that in itself cries out for a worldwide audience and stuff. What do you think the reason or why it's such this thing that stretches all over the world, Aardman's?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a cliche, but I think we've always just made films for ourselves, you know, that we find funny, and we don't really have a strong marketing hat on from the beginning. It's very much what we feel is funny, and we dip into our, you know, that sense of what we feel is the right thing. Yeah. And with this, we're always looking for sort of quirky as well, a bit different. And you know, I felt there was a gap in the market for underdog prehistoric sports movies. I haven't seen that before, so that really excited me.
Now we have, thankfully. Listen, thank you so much for your time today and being here, and congratulations. And I think I speak for everyone in the room, we can't wait to see the finished film from those snippets that we've seen today. It looks absolutely wonderful. Maisie, Tom and Nick, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, everybody.